Okay, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us today. We're here at the Bluegrass Council of the Blind in Lexington, Kentucky, and we're going to be talking about audio description. Just kind of doing a group seminar, just talking about audio description, what it is, a little bit of information about it, how to access it, maybe a little bit about the history. We are recording this on Zoom. We have some people in physically here in the room. And then we have some calling in on Zoom, but we are recording this and this will be aired up on our YouTube here shortly. So anybody in the future watching this, hello. All right, so my name is Sam Seavey. I am the Assistive Technology and Training Program Coordinator here at the Bluegrass Council of the Blind. Let's start talking about audio description. Thank you for everybody coming out. Audio description, what is it basically in a nutshell? It's a second layer of audio on a movie or a video that adds or provides more information, that provides audio information of something visual on the screen, and it's designed specifically for the blind and visually impaired. So that's usually for a lot of shows and movies, it's the audio description is providing information of what's happening on the screen visually in between dialogue. So if you have two characters and they're talking, in between what they're saying, the audio description will come on and narrate maybe what's happening in the scene. And we'll give some examples here in a minute. And if anybody has any questions, please let me know. I'm looking at my cheat sheet here. Terminology. It's oftentimes these days we refer to it as audio description. In the past, or some places will call it video description, although I think the FCC and things like that, they're getting away from using that terminology. Sometimes it's also called video descriptive services. And in older televisions and cable, things like that, it's also called SAP, second audio program or secondary audio program. And we'll talk a little bit about that when we talk about how to access these things. So as far as when audio description got started, it's been around for like over 20 years. Since the early 90s is when it was first adapted. But unfortunately, it's a very slow progression. And so because of that, a lot of people don't really know about it, don't know much about it. Some people don't even know it exists. Even people in the blind and visually impaired community don't realize that this is available to us. And it's available in a lot of different places. We're going to talk more about that as well. The cost, how much does it cost us as users? It doesn't cost anything. It's free. We can access audio description as long as it's available. We can access it at no charge. It's free, which is great. It's fantastic. Where is it available? So nowadays, we're living in the digital world. So a lot of content we receive is streaming content. And so a lot of the streaming platforms, pretty much all of them, have some type of audio description available. Some of the biggest ones, Netflix is one of the largest. Netflix, all of their original programming is audio described. And a lot of their older content is also being audio described as well. Apparently, iTunes has the largest selection of audio described hits. I don't know what that means, but it said hits available. I don't know that for sure, though. But, you know, Hulu has it. And then there's different platforms that you can access these networks and these channels and things like that. And they will have audio description as well. We'll talk about that in a second. But also cable, just normal cable networks. They have started to adopt audio description and provide that for their viewers, which is great. Now, unfortunately, there isn't, as of right now anyways, there isn't a very strict guideline as to how much of their program is supposed to be audio described. The FCC has outlined some requirements. You know, they're supposed to have a certain number of hours of audio descriptive content every quarter or something like that. But it's kind of hit or miss on which networks will do that, have that available. If you are watching cable through a cable box or a DVR, or maybe through an app, if you're watching like Comcast or Spectrum, one of those, Time Warner, one of those types of cable things, if you have audio description turned on, then it will automatically pop up for you. It'll automatically show, display the audio description. And we'll talk about here in a second how to turn these things on. Probably, like I said, the most common place we will see audio description, though, these days is in movies. A lot of the modern day movies will have audio description available. And for most of the time you have to turn it on, and it doesn't come automatically turned on. You have to go in and turn it on. But, you know, we'll talk a little bit about that too. One place that you can access audio description that a lot of people don't know about is in movie theaters. So because these movies have this audio description available, you can watch in the theaters with the audio description turned on. So pretty much every theater, I think every modern day theater has this available. All the ones I've been to around here in Lexington have audio description available. Whenever you go up and you're buying your ticket, you just need to ask for the headset. They will provide this little headset. It looks like an old-fashioned Walkman with a headset, and that is both for audio description and closed captioning for hearing impaired. They're both in the same headset for the most part. So when you get into the theater, you just turn it on, and when the movie starts, you wear the headphones and the audio description audio track will play. So there's a couple things, when we talk more about where to access this stuff, there's a couple things about theaters I want to definitely mention. Some frustrations we'll talk about, but give you an example of what an audio description clip might be. So if you are watching something and two characters on the screen and one character says, "Hey, is that your drink?" And he points to a can of soda. And the other one says, "Yeah, that's mine." As a non-visual person, we have no idea what he's doing. All we know is he's talking about some mysterious drink. That's all we know. As a visual person, you can see the character point. Maybe the camera will do a close-up of the can of soda sitting on the table. So they get all that information, but we as non-visual viewers, we don't get that information. So that's where audio description comes into play. The character says, "Hey, is that your Coke? Or is that your drink?" and points to it. The audio description comes in and says, "Robert points at a can of Coke sitting on a table." And then John says, "Yeah, that's mine." So it fills in that information that we're missing visually. That can be super helpful for a lot of different situations. One of the areas that I find most helpful is anytime text is being displayed on the screen in some fashion. If a character is walking into a grocery store and it shows the name of the grocery store, I have no idea what that says. I can't read it visually. So the audio description will announce that to me. It'll say, you know, Kroger, John walks into Kroger's. Or a lot of times these days, someone will be texting on their phone in a movie, and it will do a close-up of the phone screen so the viewer can see what the person is texting. Once again, I have no idea. I can't read any of that. So the audio description will read out loud what is written on the phone screen. Super helpful in those situations. And then finally, One of the best, though, is for subtitles. If you're watching a show that someone is traveling and they go into another country and everybody's speaking a different language, they automatically put the subtitles down on the screen of what these people are saying, but we have no idea. So audio description will read out those subtitles, which is fantastic. There is, for situations like that, though, you may run into where the audio description will be talking over the person that's doing the dialogue in another language, but generally it's okay for those situations. Usually audio description is very good not to talk over the dialogue on the screen, what the other characters on the screen are saying. They try to squeeze it all in between the conversations on the screen. Now, there is only one at this time. There's really only one level of audio description. It's either all or nothing. There are several people in the community that are trying to push for having different levels of audio description. Say if you're a completely non-visual person, you maybe want the highest level of audio description. It's telling you everything in between scenes. It's audio describing everything. And that might be great for someone completely non-visual. But if someone is just low vision and maybe they just can't read subtitles, they can still follow what's going on the screen, but they can't read the subtitles. Maybe they would only need level 1, which just reads out the subtitles. Unfortunately, we don't have that right now as of the recording of this program here, but maybe someday in the future, which would be pretty cool, I think. Now, accessing the audio description. As I said, it is available on pretty much any streaming system you have. If you are watching Netflix, for example, on a computer, to turn on audio description, you would go into the audio settings of the media player on Netflix. So as you're watching the movie or the TV show, if you pause down towards the bottom, I think on Netflix it's in the bottom right, I could be wrong on that, but there's a little icon for audio settings. That's where you would turn on closed caption, that's where you would turn on different languages, all of that. But in there will be a setting for audio description, to turn on audio description. And when you click on that, then, and you press play again, audio description will be on and will be running and working fine. And it stays on until you go back in and turn it off again. So even if you go start watching a different movie, it should still be turned on and start talking to you. That's generally the way it is for most of these streaming services, Hulu, things like that. You need to go in and turn it on in the settings. If you are watching content on an iPhone or an iPad, then you can actually go into the accessibility settings of the iPhone or the iPad and turn on audio description there. It's in accessibility, audio description. And then it will automatically turn it on for whatever you're watching. If what you're watching has audio descriptions, it will automatically turn it on for you, which is really nice. You don't have to go in and turn it on for every single thing. Unfortunately, Android does not have that right now. I don't believe it does. Excuse me.
I hate to interrupt you, but why would anyone want to turn it off?
Well, you know, like for me, for example, so Marty asked, why would somebody want to turn it off? For me, for example, sometimes if I'm watching something, it can be a little distracting in certain situations. And this is something that other people have talked about. And it's a good segue into talking about sometimes audio description can be a little much. So for example, a perfect example is if you're watching a movie and it's a very sad scene and the character is very sad, maybe their parent just passed away, they're in the hospital, and if we know it's a very sad scene. Well, then audio description might come on and say, you know, Rebecca has a very sad look on her face and she's crying. It's, you know, it's like, I don't need to know that because I already know that. I already know it's a sad scene. that's, maybe just a little more information than I need at that moment. And some people feel like it kind of takes them out of the experience when something like that pops up. Another one is action movies. When there's like a fight scene, there's a lot of audio description coming at you very fast during a fight scene. John punches him in the face, then jumps over a table, and it can be overwhelming in some situations. So you may want to turn it off.
I think it'd be good to know that.
Yeah. But it's nice that, like I said, it's nice that if you do turn it on, it's oftentimes it's on for everything. So in cable boxes, though, if you have an older system, you have a cable box, you have an older TV, and this is pretty old, like prior to 2002, kind of old, then it's going to be on your TV settings, and there's something called SAP. I mentioned that earlier, Second Audio Program. You'll need to turn that on. Now, the problem is with the older systems, that second audio program is also what they, here in the US anyways, is what they would have the Spanish language on as well. So if you turn it on, you might get Spanish, you might get audio description. I don't know. It kind of depends. But it's probably not a problem. Most people probably have modern day TVs, and at least in the last 20 years or so. Let me check my cheat sheet here.
Hey, Sam.
Yes.
What if you have a newer version of a cable box or a smart TV? How do you turn it on?
So it's going to either be, Kimberly asked if you have a newer version of a cable box or a smart TV. It's either going to be a setting in the cable box or the smart TV. Unfortunately, a lot of these TVs and cable manufacturers, they're different. There's not just one way to do it, but it will be in one of the two. I think for most of them, I would say it's on the cable box. If you do have a smart TV, like I'm using a Samsung smart TV as my monitor here, if I wanted to turn audio description on, it's not on the TV. It's in the specific app or website like Netflix or Hulu. So you would just have to kind of do some investigating. Look in the audio settings, and as I said before, you're going to be looking for audio description or video description. Chances are the newer things, it's not going to have that SAP or video description service.
Okay,
Another area that is really helpful for audio description is educational videos, students. And because nowadays in modern days, a lot of students are consuming media or consuming their educational information on smartphones, tablets, smaller screens, small laptop screens, and maybe, on the go, they're riding into work or riding into school, and they're kind of watching this video about crickets or something. I don't know. But they may want to turn on audio description. Even if they don't have a vision impairment, turning on audio description would help them be able to get all the information that maybe they're missing by watching on that very small screen. And then the other thing is people who are creating content for on YouTube or educational providers, teachers, they can add in audio description into their videos, and that will help whomever is watching in the future. So, and then there's really cool emerging technology with audio description, where there's apps. You can get apps that will sync up with whatever you're watching and provide audio description for it. For example, there's one called Spectrum Access. It's part of Spectrum cable company, but it's not, you don't have to have Spectrum in order to use it. It's a free app. But if you are watching a television show or a movie, doesn't matter where, you could be watching it in the theaters, you could be watching it on Netflix, and you go into the Spectrum Access app and you find that particular TV show. Say you're watching House. One of my wife and daughter's favorite shows right now is House. If they're watching an episode, they can find House in the app, and the app will listen to the television show and then sync up with the show they're watching and start to provide audio description for it. So that's really cool. So if you are in a theater and you think, oh no, I forgot to go get a headset, but you have one of these apps, you can then have it listen to the movie and sync up and do the audio description for you.
We'll sing something about automatically.
Yeah, it listens, it uses the microphone on your phone and listens to the movie playing, and it knows where to do it. I've got a list here. Let me read off some of these apps. The Spectrum Access was one. There's also a Disney one that I cannot remember what it was, and I apologize. It's a Disney, but it only does audio description for Disney movies. Disney Plus is another streaming service that has a lot of great audio description available. Movie Reading is one of the apps. Ear Catch is an app. Greta and Starks, excuse me, I'm trying to read this here. Audible Magic, Active View, and then the Spectrum Access. So these are all apps that will do that. Some are only for movie theaters. Some are both for movie theaters and outside of movie theaters, streaming things. A great source of information about audio description is the ACB website, American Council of the Blind. They have a page called the Audio Description Project. And they have compiled a ton of information about audio description, even going into the laws and FCC and what networks are required and to have audio description and all of that information. If anybody would like to find that, we have it on the Bluegrass Council of the Blind's website. In our resources page, you'll find a link to the audio book or audio description project. But yeah, it has a whole list of resources of movies and things that are audio described, what's available now, and I think it gets updated pretty frequently. And so that is basically audio description, what it is in a nutshell. One thing I did want to mention, though, I wanted to come back to the theaters, and this is just my own personal experience. I try to get the headset every time I go to a movie, and for the most part, I'd say 75% of the time it works out great. I don't have any problems, but there have been times where maybe the people working there don't really know what it is, don't know how to turn it on, how to work it, and so you have to kind of be an advocate, and sometimes you have to teach them what you're talking about. The other thing is to try and get there a little early, because I've also missed like the first 15-20 minutes of the movie because I took it in and the headset didn't work, and I'd have to go all the way back to the front, get a different headset, take it back in, and it didn't work. It was kind of a mess. I will say, though, that if you ever run into that problem and you have difficulty like that, let them know, because oftentimes they will give you some free movie passes, as kind of an apology for, missing a big chunk of the movie that you paid to see. But other than that, like I said, it works great. I've had very positive experiences. You do get a set of headphones. Another thing I would recommend is bring your own headphones, because you can just unplug the ones that they gave you and plug in your own, and then you are using headphones that you've used and not someone else. So that would be a recommendation. But yeah, does anybody have any questions about it? No, nobody?
That's my question.
All right. Has anybody used audio description before?
When they had that Grease movie here,
Mm-hmm.
they used audio description on it, and that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's like listening to a book, like those audio books that was listening to on the players.
Yeah.
It's almost just like that because it tells you things on there that, like, what's the name of the blood? So like,
Right.
and I've seen Grease like at the drive-in when it first came out years ago, and then I didn't know he did that. The things that happened in the movie, I don't know.
Yeah.
That was really cool.
Yeah. Rachel, do you listen to audio description?
No, I would like to see if I can get it turned on though.
Yeah.
I have a smart TV. I'd like to check it out.
Yeah, and then even some networks, PBS is one of the big ones that has been offering audio description for quite a while. A lot of their shows are audio described, and they have it just turned on by default on some of their shows, their programs. A lot of their kids shows are audio described as well. NBC, I believe, my sister called me the other day and said she was watching an episode of like Law and Order, and then all of a sudden audio description came on, and she was very surprised. So a lot of these shows, even on cable, are being audio described these days, which is yeah, like I said, if you just have to find the way to turn it on your device. And maybe you could, if someone has a specific cable company or TV, you could Google how to turn on audio description on that particular thing.
See, I have this box that I bought. It streams off of satellite and cable
Right.
and everything. You can get anywhere between 11 to 12,000 different channels on this. And I just wonder if ever you could do it with that as well. I don't know why you wouldn't. Could you turn it on your television?
Yeah, you may need to go into the settings of the box itself, and into the audio settings or something like that and find it, but you should be able to, yeah.
Because I know it gets aggravating when you ask somebody, well, what happened,
Mm-hmm.
and it's interfering with them when you watch the show.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think that's, yeah, the light, hang on a second. Motion activated.
Oh, okay.
All right, so that's pretty much all I had about audio description. We're a little bit early, but not too bad. I will go ahead and stop the recording here, and if anybody else has any questions, or if anybody watching this video in the future, I should look at the camera, please feel free to send us an email. You can email Bluegrass Council of the Blind, info@bcbky.org. You can send me an email, sam@bcbky.org, and we'll do our best to help out. Once again, check out the resources section of our website, which is bcbky.org. And lots of great information in there, but that audio description program or project will be in there as well. So, all right, guys. Well, I appreciate it. Thank you, everybody, for coming, and we'll talk to you soon.